The next speaker is Professor Manuela Aparicio from NOVA Infromation Management School, Lissabon. Hello, Manuela.
Hello, good morning, Pavi, and
Good morning.
thank you for the invitation. First of all, it's a pleasure. I would like to extend the greetings from Information Management School, Universidade Nova de Lisboa, Portugal, to University of Lapland, and of course to extend the greetings to everyone here in this seminar. So I would like to start to share, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can tell yourself how you wish the questions are asked for you. If the
Yeah, okay.
audience can open their mic while you're speaking, or do you want all the questions in the end?
Well, I think it's probably more interactive. If anyone has any question, please speak out, open the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better. If I see that the time is running out, then we will
Mm-hmm.
answer at the end. But it's
Okay.
better because of the interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let me start to share. Let me
Yep.
see. So you are visualizing the presentation already, right?
Yes, we can see
Yes.
it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, good morning. My name is Manuela Aparicio. As Pavi announced, I'd like to thank the opportunity for diffusion of science information on gamification impact on massive open online courses success. So the presentation that I bring here today is like a quick flash presentation of myself, my school, and then one part of the presentation is about gamification, what it is not. And then I'm bringing you here the case of a massive open online course that we produced and launched on geographic information systems here at NOVA IMS. And we measured the impact of gamification in the success of this MOOC. Okay, so this is just a brief overview of the campus. So this is where our school is situated, next to the rectoratum. Our team at our research center, we do conduct several types of research in four fields. Particularly, I belong to the information systems field. There are some studies related to the impact of gamification in several areas related to the information systems. And of course, also one of the topics that brings me here is the impact of gamification in online courses, and in this case, particularly on MOOCs. So we conduct research on gamification, information systems, technology adoption. But today, what brings me here is to defend the results of a study of what are the impacts of gamification on massive open online courses. So to start with, it is important to disambiguate the concept of gamification itself. So it's usually gamification is really confounded or used interchangeably within another concepts like serious games or gaming. But I would like to bring a little bit of enlightenment in this sense. Serious games are not entirely gamification. So serious games is like the intersection of experience, entertainment, multimedia, and usually they are used in training simulation, for example. That's why the concept has serious in the name. Gamification is neither game also. So gamification compared to game, it lacks the characteristics of we are using a system that are just played for fun. So in gamification, that is not the point. So gamification has a little of game thinking, game design, and game elements. So this is important because these words, these concepts sometimes are used interchangeably, gamification and serious games and game itself. So what it is gamification? So gamification is has the literature um, uh, defines, like Dettering et al., one of the first authors to define gamification. Gamification is the use of game design elements in non-game contexts. So meaning that when we gamify an information system, we are including in the design of the information system, including in the design of the interaction between that information system and the content, we are including game elements. So what are game elements? So game elements are, according to the literature, they are components, mechanics, dynamics, and some authors also include aesthetics. So the very first part of the presentation that I'm bringing here today is to talk a little bit about the differentiation and what are these game elements. So what are components, mechanics, and dynamics? Because altogether they work as one in a designed information systems, in this case, in a massive open online course, deliverable, delivering the contents, delivering the environment, and creating like a motivation, engagement environment. So game design elements, when we're talking about game design elements, we usually talk about the very first thing, that it is more reachable for our site, is the components. So components are usually specific instantiations, things that the user, and in this case that the learners, can perceive as elements, as game elements, like the leaderboards, for example, the leaderboards, the badges, what we call the PBL, like the points, leaderboards, and badges. So game components are one kind of gamification elements or game elements, which are usually used in massive open online courses or even in other e-learning courses. And they are example, we can use examples like points, attribute badges, attribute a cup, a winner cup. So these are examples of components. When it is related to mechanics, another kind of game elements, mechanics are like the rules. So we attribute one or two components when the user, in this case the learner, achieves a certain point, achieves a certain challenge. So mechanics are really more specific elements in the way that they imply more specific action. So mechanics, as we can understand, they describe the rules. So we describe the rules for students, for learners. If, for example, you visualize a video, a short video, and conduct a short quiz on this particular task, on this particular module, you will win a certain amount of points. So the mechanic is the description of the rules. So it's different from a roadmap, because a roadmap means the sequence of activities. So the mechanics is not entirely a roadmap. Mechanics are the description of the rules upon the components are attributed to the learners. When it comes to some examples, so watch a video and get a prize, or answer a particular survey, get a master level. So these are examples of game mechanics. When it comes to game dynamics are, for example, the appointment, the status, the progression. So the game dynamics are really one example where the game components and the game mechanics are integrated in the interface, in the learning environment. So the dynamics produce a certain kind of environment to the game elements in gamification. Then we have game aesthetics. As for certain authors, game aesthetics are also part of gamification, are also one of the examples of the game elements. So the aesthetics are the desirable emotional response that we aim to produce in the learner. For example, motivation, engagement, a sense of responsibility, sense of perseverance. So all these emotional responses that we need the students to have, they can be induced by the game aesthetics. So the game aesthetics are also a gamification or a game element. For example, the sensation of make and believe that I could achieve something, or that I'm ready to do a particular task, the feeling that I overcome an obstacle. So these are the game aesthetics. So in terms of gamification, a gamification is the usage of game elements in non-game environments or in non-game situations. So as we can extract from literature, game elements are composed by components, mechanics, dynamics, and also aesthetics. So each of them play a particular role in the implementation of a gamified MOOC. I wonder if there are any questions. Okay, so one example, how can we in our studies we are we need to understand the impact of gamification in the implementation and embedded in the information systems and embedded in a massive open online course. We can measure gamification using several scales. This one that we have here, this one represents the measurement scales for gamification using the game elements like components. We have here badges, points, leaderboards. We also have the mechanics, the sense that the learner has regarding the usage of certain rules, of certain things that they have to achieve, and then the dynamics. So the construct of gamification can be measured using this scale. In this study that I bring here today, we needed to understand the impact of gamification in massive open online courses. So we knew by then that massive open online courses had an immense reach. For example, a professor can reach much more students within one MOOC than in his entire life. Imagine that. But that's not all roses, you see. So massive open online courses still have a huge amount of dropout rates. People enroll. Sometimes people do not start the activities. So we implemented gamification design in a particular MOOC. In this case, the MOOC is called MOOC TechGeo, an geographic information systems massive open online course. And we wanted to understand if we gamified part of the MOOC, if there was a perception of success from the part of the learners of that particular MOOC. So the main objectives upon which we started this study, particularly it was to identify the MOOC success determinants. So what are the variables, what are the dimensions that we have to think about that leads to success. And the other objective was to identify the impact of gamification in the overall success of the MOOCs. So the contributions of this study, they brought us more understanding in terms of, by then it was the first empirical test of information systems success theory in massive open online courses. And we extended a particularly well-known model, a theory of information system success, which is Delon and MacLean. So we extended the Delon and MacLean model, including gamification as a second-order construct. We proposed a new construct of gamification, and we measured that construct and the impact of gamification in the overall success. So we found that gamification had a strong positive impact between the individual performance, which means individual impacts and organizational impacts here. So for that, we proposed a theoretical model, and that theoretical model is based in literature, particularly in literature for massive open online courses, is also based in information system success theory, particularly Delon and MacLean proposed theory, information system success theory, and it's also, of course, based in gamification literature. So we merged all these theories and we proposed these research models. So this research model depicts these several parts of the theory, which means, for example, we have as independent variables like information quality, the system quality, the service quality impacting in the usage of the massive open online course and impacting directly in the user satisfaction. And we also, as we wanted to understand the impact of gamification in the perception of performance, individual performance of the learners, and in the organizational performance, here the organizational impact. So we measured this construct gamification, which in this case it was reflected in the enjoyment feeling or the enjoyment perception of the learners and the challenge perception. So in this case, we used as gamification as a second order construct, which reflects of enjoyment and challenge perceptions from the part of the students. We also measured the gamification impacts in the massive open online course use and in the satisfaction, the perceived satisfaction. So based on this research model, we constructed the measurement scale for gamification, which in this case we used enjoyment and challenge. So the sense and the perception of the learners in terms of enjoyment, did they perceive, did they enjoy it, did they have any sense of enjoyment while learning geographic information systems? Did they felt any challenges? Did they felt they did the contents of the massive open online course had impacts on their learning way? So this was the measurement scale that we used. In the massive open online course, we used these components. For example, we used as resources the most common resources. So we used the course syllabus, the manual ebook we provided for the students, slides to support videos, and we also included videos with the transcription, but we also we included some gamified elements which engaged in which the intention was to engage more our learners regarding like we described certain rules we implemented the mechanics, and we said, okay, if you provide feedback for your peers, if you comment on the forum, you earn extra points. So we also include that, and embedded in the mechanics, embedded in the environment and the aesthetics of the course, we also include a sense of challenging activities. So once the learner passes from module 1 to module 2 until module 6, the challenge, the level of difficulty of those activities increased a little bit. So to give the sensation of achievement and to give the sensation of embracing the learning activities. So our students, the study that we conducted was, as mentioned before, in a massive open online course named TechGeo, because it was designed for geographic information systems population. So this is the print screen of our participants. So each participant in the beginning of the course, they pinned on the map where they were at the moment taking the course. So this is actually the print screen of the participants. So we had in the beginning of the course, we had 1,356 enrollment students, but actually the ones who started the course were 1,014 students. So these students belong to 18 countries. At the end of the course, we passed on a survey in order to measure the impact of the information system success theory, information quality, service quality, content quality, gamification, and we calculated the results of those survey using only 215 participants, because were the surveys that were completed and that were really useful for measuring the impact of this. So as the results, some part of the characterization of the learners that responded to the survey, as you see, they were from various professions, from various countries, and they had different instruction levels. So this is the major characterization for our sample. And for the results, so after we computed, we collected all the data and we computed using structural equation modeling, using PLS, partial least squares methods. And the main results for to measure which we achieve is that that we could understand that for the information system success theory, only information quality and system quality had impact in the user satisfaction, positive impact. None of these dimensions, information quality, systems quality, service quality, had any impact, non-significant impact on the use of massive open online course, which is interesting because this was a free course. It was not mandatory for anyone, although the three main variables, the three main dimensions of information system success showed us that in this case, in this context, they did not add any impact on usage of the massive open online course. However, information quality of the content and the system quality had a strong impact in the user satisfaction. So gamification also had impact. So this was really interesting because gamification impacted very strongly in the usage of massive open online course. The satisfaction of the learners also impacted strongly in the usage, and gamification also impacted in the perception of individual success, individual performance. Also, gamification impacted positively in the organizational impact. Moreover, gamification did not only have a direct impact on usage of the MOOC or in the individual perception, performance, or in the organizational impact directly, but also gamification demonstrated by the results had an indirect impact. Namely, gamification here showed us that it has a moderator effect, meaning that the individual impact perception, the individual performance perceived by learners had a strong impact in the organizational impact where these learners worked or studied. Not only, but also gamification, the presence of a gamified course really has a stronger effect on the impact of individual performance on the organizational performance. So this means that not only the individual performance impacts the organizational performance, but also because the massive open online course was gamified, it also increased that effect, that positive effect. So this model explains about 45% of the organizational success impact using a MOOC, a gamified MOOC. This model also explains about 62% of the individual perception, the individual success perception, and it explains about 25 to 27% of the usage just impacted by the satisfaction and the gamification. And it also explains 67% of the user satisfaction explained directly by the quality of the information, and the quality of the systems and the usage itself. So just to sum up these studies, these MOOC study results, we from the study, we could understand that this massive open online success model explains about 65% of the variables that explain that success. It explains 26, 28 to 28 in model 1, model 2, because if we see here, not only use affects or impacts positively the user satisfaction, as also the user satisfaction impacts positively the massive open online course usage. So in this sense, we had to calculate the model twice, right? So gamification is really a second order reflective construct reflected on enjoyment and challenge perception. And the study results also indicated us that gamification positively influences usage, individual performance, organizational performance, and moderates the positive relationship between the individual perception of performance in the organizational performance. So gamification in this case revealed to have not only a positive and direct effect, but also an indirect effect because of the moderation effect. So we also computed the model with and without the information system success dimensions. And what we learned from that is that gamified learning environments, in this case for MOOCs, it is really a decisive factor. It also it has a very strong effect in the engagement and in the perception of success, either individual or organizational success. So as to take home notes, we can say that the best gamification is usually invisible. So my colleagues and I really understood that the best gamification, it's not just PBL, points, leaderboards, and badges, and winner cups. So it has much more than that. It's not just one type of element. It's not just components. There are much more than that. They are mechanics, they are dynamics and aesthetics. The online courses are not the panacea as itself. So I think you have already discovered that. So we have to understand, because students respond differently to online courses, particularly to MOOCs, because they are not mandatory. People are just engaging because they are eager to learn. So we have to understand what are the dimensions that induce engagement, induce motivation for the activities, the learning activities themselves. And information quality is usually a persistent determinant in success. In various studies that my colleagues that I conducted in other contexts, particularly in university contexts, and we can really say, based in this study and in other studies, that gamification can lead to online course successes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention, and I think I really have I can answer some questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuela.
Thank you.
So we can say that gamification really has its impacts to MOOC.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any questions? You can open your mic and ask questions that way, or also you can write down there in chat.
So it's
nothing yet.
okay.
Oh, now there's one hand. Okay, ole hyvä, Päivi.
Thank you, Manuela, for the very interesting presentation of your study, MOOC study, and the results. So it was really interesting to notice when you had this slide where you had these results where there was information quality, system quality, and service quality. So you pointed out as a results the gamification, the enjoyment and challenges. So both of them had very high rates, 0.9, 0.0. So 0.903. So I have not exactly a question, but just noting that what is the challenge part from that, if you can explain a bit more. Is it related to some assessment issues, or you may have mentioned it, but to repeat it?
Okay, thank you, Timothy, for your question and for your interest. Yes, in fact, gamification in this study, it was measured by the usage of challenge and enjoyment. In terms of the challenge, we included certain levels of challenge throughout the design of the whole course. So from one module to another, we increased the level of importance of the topics, but also the level of difficulty of the tasks and activities. So this is perceived quite challengeable for the learners themselves. So they start smooth, but then we increase the level of complexity of the topics and also the level of activities that they had to produce. For example, it's not enough just to see a short video and do one quiz with one or two questions. So students in this case had actually to produce several short essays and submit it to the system, so everyone could be engaged. Another Another mechanic that we introduced for this particular MOOC was that, of course, when we have a team of professors giving these several parts of the modules of the course, the professors and the tutors are really absorbed with lots of essays. So imagine, for example, for one module or two or three, we have at least one or two essays per each student. So this is a really and a huge amount of tasks to deliver feedback, particularly individualized feedback for each of the learners. So another challenge that we introduced here as a mechanic was that the students who provided feedback to their peers achieved a higher performance. So they get more points, they get more extra points. So in this case, they perceived not only challenge, they did not only had to deliver their essay, they also had to engage with peers, because in an online environment, people seems a little bit sometimes detached, because they are in their home, in their houses, in their own familiar environment, and suddenly they are not engaging with each other. So in order not to miss the engagement environment, in order to not to miss the socialization part of the process, we have really created here an important aspect which relates not only with the level of difficulty, but with the level of socialization. So social learning in this sense was also included. It is challengeable, not only to produce essays, but also it is a challenge perceived by students. Oh, now I have to socialize with my peers. I have to give them feedback. What will I say? And this is an individualized feedback. So for this case, for this MOOC, these are two examples of challenge.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if I answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you for your question.
Okay, let's see if there's coming any other questions. Now we have a little bit time left,
We had
we have
break.
plenty. Yeah. Okay,
I think
now there
Petri,
is
yeah.
Petri's. Yeah.
Okay, I actually think, because these MOOCs are kind of for huge amount of learners and students and so on, how you can take into account different student types, because there is different kinds of learners. Like in games, there is like this Bartle's taxonomy, so we need to kind of take into account how they are learning. You already mentioned this socializing aspect, but how to take example these explorers or some people who like to learn different things and different ways, how you can take that into account?
Yeah, that's a very interesting and important question that you raised. Thank you, Petri, because from the studies that my colleagues and I conducted so far, we really realized that there are different types of learning, different types of learners. Some are more extroverted, some are more introverted. This does not mean they do not perceive success, or this does not mean that they not perceive learning itself. The thing that we are exploring is that regarding the different types of learners, we can accommodate or customize a different order or different designs of the components according to more extroverted kind of learners, or more or less collective, more individualistic students. So in this case, we can design gamification and combine the several game elements regarding to increase different kinds of motivation. For example, we don't want just our students to learn use because they are earning badges. We want them to be intrinsically motivated, and to be intrinsically motivated is one kind of motivation. Extrinsic people that are extrinsically motivated usually are the most social individuals, right? So they like to expose their name in the leaderboards, they like to expose their badges and so on. Those are more motivated with extrinsic components. But then we have also to work and to design the MOOC in order to produce a sense of intrinsic motivation. And here it comes the challenge feeling, the challenges, the perception of levels of difficulty, the perception of achievement belonging to a particular group. And these are elements that we are exploring right now in order to increase not only the extrinsic motivation, but also the intrinsic motivation. So I think answering to your question, really, when we look into different kinds of learners and into different kinds of learning processes regarding the different users, different learners, we can combine the game elements or the gamification elements, combining them and inducing more intrinsic motivation rather than just pump out the extrinsic motivation components. I didn't know if I answered your question, but this is what we have thought. Thank you.
I think that I got bits and pieces here and there. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Petri.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to ask something from Manuela? Yep, Päivi.
Just a short. I took a QR code of your this scholar, so I got it on my mobile. But could you please add the link here on the team so we could get it directly on the laptop, so it would be easier to read your
For sure.
research items. Those are really interesting. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Okay. Thank you. So this is a bit like you have your presentations in Finnish. I'm sorry, I don't know Finnish, but it some presentations are I find it interesting. I wish I knew Finnish so I could learn all of it. But it's rather a break, right, in another language. But don't be shy. I can answer your questions.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that we take it in Finnish earlier.
Oh, no, it's
you
particularly,
didn't understand the word.
Yeah, it's particularly understandable. I just have to thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the invitation, Päivi. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be able to be fun, to talk about our results. And these were really exciting results regarding this study. So it's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, it seems like nobody has any questions left.
Well, if you have any questions, you can email me or feel free to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do that.
When you come to Lisbon, please visit us at Universidade Nova de Lisboa.
Okay. Do you have such a beautiful weather there now as you have in the picture?
It's still summer.
Okay.
Actually,
nice.
This is one part. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you for your attention, for your interest, and for the invitation. Thank you, Pavi.
Thank
And
you
thank
so
you
much,
all.
Manuela.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
really nice day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.